All right, welcome back. Episode 10 of To The Crib. It's your boy Delix, my man Coach Bishop. How we doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Thank y'all for tuning in again. Make sure y'all hit the like button, subscribe, share this with your friends and family. This is going to be our waiver wire. It's kind of a highlight episode right here. This is our first double-digit episode. We've got to episode 10 right now. Thank y'all for your support. We appreciate you.
Yeah, so we're going to go real quick into this. This is a waiver wire leading up to week 3. So we got some names. I guess top name for me and for everybody probably is Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford, yes.
Unfortunately, Nick Chubb is out for the year. I don't know if you saw the injury, but it was pretty gruesome. Poor guy. Second time, the same leg. We just hope he can make a speedy recovery and come back. But in the meantime, we're going to keep moving. We got Jerome Ford behind him. I understand that you're going to be like, not in my league, bro. He's not available. Your league is not the only league in the world. There's a lot of leagues. There's a lot of different roster sizes and all that. He could be available. He could be available in some leagues, and he's a definite top priority waiver picker.
Yeah.
If you have a fab situation, how much percent of your fab are you spending on?
Oh, on Ford?
Jerome Ford.
I'm spending a healthy amount.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point.
50% up?
Yeah, definitely. I want to make sure I'm getting forward this week if I'm spending fab. So should be spending some fab on him if you have to spend fab. Man, it just depends on your setup and what you're looking at. If you're a Chubb owner, you may spend more fab than what the other person might spend because you need that replacement now. You need that more than anybody else. But I'm 50%
or higher.
Yeah, easily. Especially like I said, if you're the Chubb owner, you definitely. I mean, I don't have an argument depending on the situation throwing all your fab at it. So it makes sense.
All right, what's another top waiver wire?
So let's go ahead and go through running backs first. To me, the top 3, if they're out there, it goes Ford, Zach Moss, and then Warren from the Steelers.
Jaylen Warren.
Yes, Jaylen Warren had a great week last week. I believe he caught 4 passes for like 36 yards. He had more yards than Najee Harris and just as many touches when you added in the catches and the rushes.
Yeah.
They each had 10 touches. This might start to be the trend. I think Warren's going to start outproducing Najee on a regular basis, at least fantasy-wise, just because of him being the target out of the backfield there and being used that way. And he's more explosive. So those are my top 3 running backs that I see that are potentially could be out there that you would want to grab.
Yeah, again, Jaylen Warren might be rostered. We get it, but sometimes some leagues he won't be. Are we freaking out about Tony Jones Jr.? Are we getting crazy about him?
No. If Tony Jones Jr., Kendre Miller, both of them could be out there in your waiver wire right now. This week, I'm not wasting a waiver spot to grab these guys. 2 things: Jamal Williams could be ready to go. It was a hamstring injury. He was able to walk off on his own power. Nothing crazy. He could be playing next week. Also, Alvin Kamara only has 1 week left on his suspension. So once he comes back week 4, these guys are non-existent. So if you're claiming them and you're wasting your waiver spot, I'm spending 0 fab on these guys. If anything, I'm going to wait to see if maybe nobody else picks them because it's a 1-week rental, in my opinion. You're just getting these guys for 1 week to put into your lineup. And you're not even going to know whether it's Kendre Miller or it's Tony Jones Jr.
Right.
I mean, because Tony Jones, he didn't even average 2 yards per carry, or just over, like 2.1 or 2.2.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a great game necessarily for him. And Taysom Hill is getting more explosive than him. So
yeah, I worry about Taysom Hill.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things. I'm not touching it. I'm just holding on to Jamal Williams. I'm not wasting anything on these guys.
What about for the Giants backfield? What are we doing?
Same thing. I don't feel like they have a backup to Saquon Barkley on roster. So I'm not grabbing any of these guys. I don't like any of them. Wait and see if maybe they try to pick up somebody, and then I maybe add them. Won't play any of these guys this week. 2 things. I'm not wasting anything on these guys because it's a short week as it is. So they play Thursday, and they're going to play San Francisco in San Fran. So I won't even like the matchup. It would have been questionable whether you play Barkley against that defense.
Yeah.
So I'm not wasting any fab or anything on any of the Giants backs. You want to say your mindset says, oh, I can get me a starting running back. I'll go grab Matt Breida.
Yeah.
I'll go grab this guy. They're playing San Francisco. Barkley's out 2 to 3 weeks. So you're maybe looking into week 4 to use him because this week's going to be a terrible week, terrible matchup. Yeah, I'm not doing anything with the Saints or the Giants backfield. I'm staying away from it. No fab, no waiver claims for any of those guys.
Yeah, I kind of agree. One thing to note is for Dynasty, you are looking at Eric Gray. Is their 5th round rookie that they drafted from Oklahoma. Hopefully, maybe he could do something. But I mean, his combine, his measurables were not the greatest. So we'll see what happens. But you definitely are not going to put any stock into Matt Breida or Gary Brightwell. That's for sure.
Yeah, because even any of those guys, even Gray, like Dynasty, that brings up a good point. If you're in a Dynasty league, maybe you want to have them there.
Yeah.
But once Barkley comes back in 3 weeks, those guys all get buried again. They're just pointless.
True. One other sneaky guy that you're not going to spend any fab on him. Don't put a waiver claim. Wait to see if he clears waivers. But it's Pierre Strong. So you saw how much they used Jerome Ford with Chubb there already. They're going to use somebody else with Jerome Ford. He's going to be the main guy, but I think Pierre Strong has a chance to get in some touches. And then again, if something happens to Ford,
you would have. It's a great handcuff to have is that Browns backfield because they do have an emphasis on the run game.
They went out and got him too.
Right. They made a trade. They traded for him.
They traded for him, so they're going to use him now with Ford. Like I said, it's not something you got to claim and waste a waiver wire spot for him or even really any money. Put $1 maybe on him, but $0 even.
We're probably the only ones talking about Pierre Strong.
I mean, I think it's a good sneaky little ad just to have on your team if you have the space. All right, that's good for running backs. I would say, Zach Moss is definitely a must add if he's available in your leagues. He should have been picked up last week, but just in case, if he's out there, he had a really good game. He looks good to go. I mean,
yeah, he's my number 2.
We probably, he's probably good for the rest of the year. So it's going to be a nice play for that. All right, moving on, we'll talk about some receivers.
So wide receivers out there, Tutu Atwell is a great ad. He's had monster targets back-to-back weeks, monster production as well. Last week was 7 for 77. The week before, he put up 119 yards. He's definitely getting used. Stafford's slinging the ball. He's definitely the second favorite target behind Nakua.
Right.
Robert Woods, another great ad. He's had great production weeks 1 and week 2. I started him in week 2. I grabbed him after week 1, but he's still out there in some leagues. Tank Dell is another one. I have a lot of shares of him. I'm going to start using him. I actually see all 3 of the wide receivers for the Houston Texans because of the negative game script and CJ Stroud having to force to throw the ball and actually being productive while doing so. All 3 of them are starts. I think you start Nico, you start Woods, you start Tank, and you just roll with it because they're all playable. They all have great. They all put up over 10 points this week in fantasy.
Yeah,
I mean, and they lost. I mean, but I see this being a trend.
Yeah, a couple other guys that they might not be available in your league, but if they are, Josh Reynolds is a for sure pickup.
For sure.
He's balling right now.
Yeah, I'm in 5 redraft leagues, and he's actually out there in one of my redraft leagues.
Okay, so Josh Reynolds is a definite pickup. Had a really good game. He's the next guy. He's there with a long run.
He's number 2.
Yeah, he's number 2.
Scored twice this week.
Yeah. Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is someone that he might be floating around still based off of the week 1 debacle. Maybe he's out there. I think it's a nice little stash to have him on your team. He did all right. I'm gonna say that Kansas City passing game. The only one I want is Mahomes and Kelsey because he spreads it out so much that it's almost like it's gonna be hard to play them consistently. But he is still someone that should be rostered probably. And then Jaden Reed.
Definitely 2 touchdowns last week. He had a great game.
Didn't have the snap percentage that you would like, but when he's in the game, he's getting the targets. He's earning the targets, which is a good sign to maybe get ramped up in snaps.
He had 8 targets, not getting a lot of snap percentages, but 8 targets on low snap percentages is phenomenal because if his snap percentages goes up, that's going to create more possible targets for him.
And they scheme up stuff for him too.
Absolutely. And then there's 2 other ones that one I like is Jonathan Mingo. Panthers are a terrible team. They're going to always be in a negative game script. And this guy had 8 targets. I think eventually he's going to develop into the number 1 there. So he's definitely somebody that if you have a deep bench or you're in trouble with the wide receiver position, he's somebody that eventually I think going to give him 2 or 3 more weeks and he's going to start having some great weeks here. Jonathan Mingo something. And then Devontae Parker, like we said in the other episode, he played 100% of the snaps. He had 8 targets and he caught 6 passes. I mean,
he's good for it.
He's somebody, if you are really in trouble at the wide receiver position, you may have to be forced to start him in your lineup. So if he's out there and you are having wide receiver trouble, he's somebody you're probably going to want to think to pick up.
All right. I mean, is there any tight ends that you like?
There's actually a few. I mean, there's a lot of tight ends because everybody's struggling with the tight end position right now. But like in a lot of my leagues, I'm seeing these names constantly when I'm looking at the waiver wire. You got Durham Smythe from Miami's out there. You have Cade Otton is out there. Hayden Hurst is another good one. Zach Ertz, I saw out there in 2 of my leagues. And Okonkwo. Give me Okonkwo, had a good game last week. He had 4 catches, 40-some-odd yards, put up like 8 points. That's more production than what people are getting out of Kittle. And you saw Kittle in the 5th and 6th rounds. And so Okonkwo's sitting there in your waiver order right now, or your waiver wire.
I like Okonkwo. You talked about Hunter Henry?
No, I didn't bring him up yet.
Yeah, Hunter Henry, I mean, again, he should be rostered already, but obviously if he's out there, I think that's one of the top tight ends.
I think he's the tight end 1 right now.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe he is the tight end 1 right now. So he shouldn't be out there, but he's a name that people were probably not drafting. And he wasn't getting drafted,
right?
But he's just out producing everybody. And then I also say watch the Washington Commanders tight ends. Logan Thomas went out of the game with an injury.
Concussion.
Yeah, and then so he may not be playing this week. But before that, I believe he had 2 or 3 catches, about 30 yards, and then Bates came in and he put up like 3 catches for another 30, 40 yards. So if they're both great players, right? So if they're both great plays this week, if Logan Thomas is playing, you play Logan Thomas. But Bates is somebody who nobody's maybe looking at this week. That you may not have to put a waiver claim in for Bates. You can just wait. Don't waste your spot. Let Tuesday night come and go. Wake up Wednesday morning and then do your addition. And if Thomas is out, Bates is going to be a great play.
Some defenses I'm looking at for this week coming up. Obviously, Kansas City is way better now with Chris Jones.
Definitely.
They got a home game against Chicago. That's nom. That's going to be freaking Sack City. Honestly, there's a sneaky defense out there that we talked about. That's interesting. The Rams. Hear me out. We were saying that they did all right versus Seattle.
Yes.
They did all right versus San Fran, as far as like holding their own. They got the struggling Bengals.
Yeah, and
next.
the Bengals may not even have Burrow this week.
So it's going to be on Monday night as well, another doubleheader. They got to go to Cincinnati, but that could be a sneaky little streamer as well.
And I also did see Miami's defense out there because they had a bad week 1 in a couple of my leagues. They got the Denver Broncos coming, who are struggling right now. That would be a nice little add as well if they're sitting out there.
Yeah, I like that. And then also Cleveland's D should be rostered, but if they're out there, I think they do all right as well because they got a solid core like we were talking about.
Yeah, Cleveland defense is phenomenal.
Right. All right. Anything else? Any quarterbacks? Anybody else that you got? Anybody?
No, if you're streaming quarterbacks this week, like I've already said before, I did it in week 1. This week he has a tougher matchup, but Sam Howell put up 300 yards last week, 2 touchdown passes. This week he's got the Buffalo Bills, something to look at. CJ Stroud, if he's out there in your redraft leagues, he's also somebody that you can play this week, I believe, against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he may be able to get something. Like I said, all those wide receivers, he's got a lot of weapons, man. So he doesn't have to just throw it to one. He can throw it to all of them. So it's hard to guard all of them. That's why I say I think the Houston Texans can sneak in and win somewhere. This might actually be one of those weeks where they do that.
Yeah, and then you got also
the Chiefs defense is going to be a good one too against the Bears.
And I think Geno is back. So if you want, he's back.
Geno,
he's back, right?
Yeah, Geno's back.
Is he back?
I think so. That was the Detroit Lions who did good. I think it's the Rams. The Rams surprised
he goes against Carolina.
Right, because like we talked about in the previous episodes, Brock Purdy in every single start of his career had 2 passing touchdowns, at least 0 this last week against the Rams defense.
Yeah.
So that speaks more about that Rams defense again, holding Brock Purdy to 0 touchdown passes. Nobody's done that yet.
Right. That's dope. All right. I mean, that wraps it up for our waiver wire episode. Stay tuned in. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to come back at you with episode 11 on Thursday.
We'll get you ready primed and ready for just Thursday Night Football.
All right. Till then, we'll see you. My name's Delix. This is my man, Coach Bishop.
Like always, take it to the crib, man.
To the crib.